Hi, this is Professor Salazar, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can use a firewall running on Ubuntu and how you can use it to allow or block ports. And the type of ports that we'll be looking at today are port SSH and port that's used for HTTP or HTTPS. So we're basically talking about remoting in using port 22 or accessing a website through port 80 or 443. All right, and I'm just going to run through a few examples. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to allow you to see my screen as I'm doing this. So if you'd like, you can follow along with me. So first things first, I'm going to share my screen. And let me start by opening up my Ubuntu virtual machine. And by the way, my Ubuntu machine is running under WSL, or the Windows subsystem for Linux. And right now, I don't really have anything running on my Ubuntu machine that's worth noting. So for example, the best thing to do if you don't have anything running on the machine and you're ready to start using it or install something or configure something is at least going in there and applying your updates. That means just checking for your updates. And if any of your updates need upgrades, then you just run a command to upgrade all of the software packages that are running off of it. So let me go ahead and open it again. And I'll do sudo apt update. I'll type in the password. And it's checking for updates right now. And it's going to check to see which which packages actually require any upgrades to them. So I'm going to go ahead and wait for a few seconds here. It's kind of stuck at about 61%. So I'm going to go ahead and wait. And while it's doing that, let me go ahead and just talk about some of the uses of this firewall that I'm going to do. I am going to be using UFW, which stands for Uncomplicated Firewall. And the Uncomplicated Firewall uses a thing called IP tables to run your basic firewall on a Linux system. If I don't see UFW installed, I'll install it with a command sudo apt install UFW. If it's not enabled, I'll do sudo systemctl UFW, or I'm sorry, if it's not enabled, then I'll do sudo UFW enable. If it needs to restart or if it needs to start, I'll go into the systemctl and type in sudo systemctl restart UFW or start UFW or enable UFW. So it looks like I'm trying to grab some updates, but it's not actually going here. So I'm going to do Control-C and see if I can stop this thing. If it's not, I may have to, run it again and see what's going on with this. Let's try sudo apt update. Let's see if it actually goes up to the web and updates. And there it is. There's 10 packages that can be upgraded. So in order to upgrade these, I'm going to type in sudo apt upgrade, and I don't want it to ask me, do you want to continue? So I'm just going to plug in a -y at the end. And here it's upgrading those 10 software packages that are running on my Ubuntu machine. And if for some reason you get stuck like this, like right now I'm getting stuck in real time as I'm recording, which is nothing new. This has happened to me in the past before. If you ever get stuck on something, it's a good idea to Control-C, try it over again if you ever get stuck. So I'm actually glad that I'm coming across errors as I'm recording this video, because this could possibly happen out there in the real world. You're running some type of an application, or you're updating something, or you're installing or configuring something, and it just doesn't work. What do you do, right? Well, the last thing that you do is just totally give up and say, I can't do this. You got to be able to troubleshoot what's going on in your computer. And you got to be able to say, all right, let's take this step by step. If I did all the steps correctly, let me go back and try to fix something. Like right here, I'm getting stuck and I'm not sure if it's actually me or something blocking me. So I'll see if I can, okay, so right there, it just went through. I'm not sure what happened, but everything just went through. If you want to check again, sudo apt update. It's going to go out there and check for updates. There's 4 packages that can be upgraded. Sudo apt upgrade space -y. And there we go. So there's some that were kept back, and I actually see the 4 software packages that were kept back from my system, which is okay. I'm not really going to pay too much attention to that. Since I'm using the UFW on Ubuntu for my firewall, I'm going to check to see if it's actually there. So I'm going to type in sudo UFW status, and it says it's inactive. So in order to make this active or activate your firewall, I'm going to type in sudo UFW enable. And now it shows me firewall is active and enabled on system startup. Okay. So it's active and enabled on system startup, but I actually want to check the status of it. What's actually running on my firewall? What ports are open? What services are running? I'm going to type in sudo UFW status, and let's see what comes up. And as you can see, I'm having problems right now in real time. So I'll go ahead and, okay, I just clicked on it. It's running a little bit slow on my end. But as it catches up with my commands, I see that it is active. All right. There's nothing being blocked. There's no like custom rules that I've set up so far on my firewall. Okay. I'll give you an example of something that we can use with our firewall. Let me go ahead and make a website and let me run it off of my Ubuntu machine. And I'll show you how you can allow access to your website and how you can block access to your website using the UFW uncomplicated firewall running on Ubuntu. So if I want to run a website off of this Ubuntu machine, I need to install a web service, or I'm sorry, I need to install this service called Apache. And Apache is a web server software that you can install on Linux. Okay. So I'm going to type in sudo apt install Apache 2. Okay. It asks me if I want to continue. I'm going to type yes. And if I wait a few seconds, it's installing Apache 2. And now it's installed on my machine. Well, what does that mean? That means that I just installed an Apache web server on my Linux machine. And all I have to do is open up a web browser and browse to that website. But before I browse to the website, I need to know my IP address. So if I want to know my IP address, I'm going to type in ifconfig. And here's my IP address, 172.21.219.132. All right. So I'm going to open up my browser. And I'm going to browse to that website, which is 172.21.219.132. And let's see what pops up. Okay. If it doesn't pop up, or if anything is not popping up from that website, that either tells me that the website is down and I'm not able to reach it, or there may be a firewall that's blocking that website from running on my browser. Okay. Because I should just be able to type it in and it should just go to that website. I also want to make sure that I type in the correct IP address, 172.21.219.132. Now, there may be times when the actual service is just not responding or is being blocked. So a lot of times when you type it into your browser, you just don't want to Google it because it's not going to take you anywhere. You want to type it in the URL, and you want to type in the entire URL name, like http:// the IP address, 172.21.219.132. All right. If it still doesn't connect like it's showing me, what you want to do is you want to check to make sure that Apache is actually running off of the machine. And if it still doesn't work, you can also troubleshoot your firewall and see if something is blocking it from the firewall's end. Okay, so I'm going to type in this sudo system CTL space status Apache 2. And right here, I see that, oh, I'm sorry, I've typed it in wrong. It's supposed to be sudo system CTL status Apache 2. Well, right here, I see that it's active and running, but I see that I'm still not able to get to the website. Even though the web server is up and running and I have a website running on my Ubuntu machine, I'm still not able to get to it using my browser. So the only thing that's left to do is to check the firewall and make sure that the firewall is allowing HTTP. And we all know that HTTP runs off of port 80. So I could either allow the HTTP service to run, or I can allow port 80 to be open. So let's check either or here. I'm going to type in sudo UFW allow 80, okay, because this is the port number that HTTP uses. And now that I allowed that rule, or should I say, now that I made the rule to allow port 80, I could check the firewall status by typing in sudo UFW status, and it's actually going to show me the custom rule that I created to allow port 80 from any computer on the internet. And now that I allowed it, if I go back to my browser, it just automatically refreshed and it opened up my website. And this is your default web page that would pop up if you actually installed Apache on your Linux machine. Okay, notice how I installed Linux earlier. I just refreshed my browser and it actually automatically refreshed it to my website. So this is how you can allow or block people to your website. Now, I know that this is not a really cool looking website. In order for me to make like a really cool looking website, I can go out to the web and maybe copy a lot of HTML. I can probably type in my own HTML. And if I want to make it look really pretty with a lot of really cool colors and fonts and be interactive, then I would have to use a combination of programming languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you combine all those three, this is what you would call full stack web development. All right. And if you want to make a website that's professional looking, that's more creative and interactive to the user, this is when you then you would use full stack web development. All right. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to block HTTP, or let's say, for example, I'm going to get rid of this rule that blocks port 80. And what I'll do is I'll see if I can remove it. And if it's not allowing me to remove it, then I'll just make another rule to deny it. Okay. So I'm going to type in sudo UFW status numbered. And let's see if it places everything in numbers for me. And yes, it does. And now I'm going to type in sudo UFW delete 1. And it asked me if I want to proceed with deleting that allow 80 rule. I type in a Y and hit enter, and the rule's been deleted. Now, if I type in that same command, sudo UFW status numbered, I only have one rule left. And if I type in that same command again to delete, it's asking me if I want to delete it, and I'm going to type yes, and now I've deleted it. There are no allow rules back into my website. So if I refresh this, or let me do, better yet, let me do this. Let me copy the IP address, and let me open up another browser, and let me go back to this website. It's never going to connect to the website. Why is it never going to connect to the website? Because I just deleted those rules inside the firewall to allow people to access my website. Okay. And it's always just going to be spinning, and it's never going to show me the page right here. Like even though the page exists, I can connect to it. The firewall is actually blocking it because there are no rules to allow. So this is one thing to consider whenever you're using a firewall. You can allow people access to your site, or you can block people access to your site in one of many different ways. Like it's not always just, oh, I need to allow or I need to remove the allow. I can actually go in there and make an explicit rule saying deny people access to port 80. Okay, so let me kind of do this. If I wanted to actually deny people access to my website, it's not like I would go in there and just remove the allow, but I can also go in here and do sudo UFW deny 80. And the rule's been added, and now nobody for sure will be able to access my website because I explicitly made a rule saying to deny everyone access to port 80 on my website. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to run through this command again, and then I'm going to delete the first rule and the second rule. So I'm going to go here and do sudo UFW delete 1, and I'm going to do numbered again, and then I'm going to do sudo UFW delete 1 and delete that rule again. So right now I don't have any rules. All right. I'm going to go back and do this. For example, I want to see exactly where my website is located. All right. And by the way, I'm going to go back and add the rule to allow. So I'm going to type in sudo UFW allow 80. And I can see that port 80 was active, is allowing connections. I'm going to refresh my browser and it's going to connect to my website. But like I said before, my website looks pretty plain. This is just like a default page that might come up whenever you're installing the Apache web service. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a custom website and then connect to my website so you can actually see it running. I'm going to go to the location where my website is running. I'm going to type in CD, which stands for change directory, to /var/www/html. And within this directory lies my website. So if I type in ls to see what's inside of it, there's an index.html file inside of this directory. And this index.html file is this web page right here. It might not say index.html, but this is index.html right here. So I'm actually looking at the site within my folder right here. All right. So if I were to delete this file, you wouldn't see my website. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create my own custom website. And I'm going to show you how easy this is. Nowadays, if you're using AI, you could just ask AI a question and just copy all that code into your server and have it running on your website. Okay, so let me go ahead and open up Copilot. And I actually already saved this as a recent search. I typed in, give me HTML and CSS code for a website that teaches cybersecurity. It gave me everything that I need. It gave me the HTML page, it gave me the CSS page, and it gave me an about page, and it gave me a contact page. And I'm going to plug in all of that code to my Ubuntu server. Okay. So I'm going to go here first, and I'm going to copy this. And first, I'm going to open up the index.html page by typing in sudo nano index.html. I'm going to get rid of all of this code that's on this website. Let me go ahead and remove this. I may have to do the line by line right here. And oh yeah, it's pretty big. So let me see if I can do this. This is probably not a good thing to do. There's probably a command that I can do to copy all of this. But maybe what I can do is this, Control X to exit out and say no to save it. I'm just going to make a new HTML page right here. I'm going to type in sudo nano, and I'm going to make a page called index2.html. And when I open this up, I'm going to save all of the code from my Copilot into here. So I'm going to type in copy. I'm going to go into my Ubuntu machine and do Control V. It's going to paste my HTML code in there. And then I'm going to do Control, let's see if I got this correct here. This doesn't look correct. Let me see if I can do it over again. Yeah, this looks correct right here. Okay, so I'm going to type in Control X, Y, and enter. Remember that I called it index2.html. I'm going to go here and remove the original index. So I'm going to type in sudo rm index.html. And if I do ls, I only see index2. So I'm going to rename it by typing in sudo mv index2.html to index.html. And now if I do ls, I only have an index.html, and it's this custom web page that Copilot created for me. Okay. I'm going to create another file called styles.css, and here's all the code for it. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to place it in this same location. So I'm going to do sudo nano styles.css, and I'm going to copy all of the code in there. Here's all the code. And by the way, this is a CSS code. I'm going to do Control X, Y, and enter. And it also gave me an about HTML page. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to place it in this folder. So I'm going to do sudo nano about.html. I'm going to do Control V to paste all of the code, and I'm going to type in Control X, Y, and enter to save it. And then I'm going to do a contact page called contact.html. I'm going to copy all of the code, and I'm going to put it in the same folder, sudo nano contact.html, and do Control V to paste in all my code, and do Control X, Y, and enter. Okay. So now if I do ls, I have 4 different files within this folder, and they should show up now on my server, on my website. If I refresh my website, it's going to look like this custom website that Copilot created for me. So let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to do sudo systemctl restart Apache 2. And now I'll go back and refresh my browser, and let's see if I can access my new website. And there it is. This is my new website. And if I click on About, here's an About page. And if I click on Contact, here's a Contact page. And this is how easy anybody can make a professional looking website using AI. Okay. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to show you that I can block this website by inserting a deny rule within my firewall. So I'm going to type in sudo UFW deny 80. Now the rule's been added. If I want to see the rule, I could type in sudo UFW status, and there's actually a deny rule right here from any website. So if I close out and try to go to this specific website that's hosting my that has my IP address and the index.html in it, I'm going to do Control C to copy this. I'm going to open up another tab and go back to the website. You're going to see that it will never connect to that website. Why will it never connect to the website? It's because I added a deny rule to port 80. All right. But if I want people to access my website, I can also allow people access to it. And there it is. By the way, it just blocked it. If I want to allow people access to it, I'll go in here, type in sudo UFW allow 80. And if I look at the status of it, sudo UFW status, there's my allow rule, and I could go back and actually see my website. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stop right here. And this is basically just showing you how you can use your UFW firewall on an Ubuntu machine to block or allow connections to a website. And this is a really cool thing because I just used Copilot to make a custom website for me. And it's all running off of this Ubuntu machine that's running on the Windows subsystem for Linux on my Windows machine. All right. I did want to show y'all one other thing is that you can also block or allow other ports like SSH. So it doesn't always have to be HTTP specific. For example, if I had a secure website, I would be using HTTPS instead of HTTP. This is why it shows not secure up on top, because there's no certificate that's installed on this website, and if there's no certificate, then there's no encryption on this website. This website would not be good if there was some type of a login where I had to log in with a username and password, because there's no encryption involved. If I were to use a website to log in with a username and password, everything that I would be logging into would be sent in plain text. And if you send something in plain text, then somebody else can actually eavesdrop and see what's being transferred in that connection. And that's where people can steal your username and password. But if you ever log into something, like let's say your bank's website, your email address, or some social media site, if you log into a website and you see that it is secure, you should see a padlock up on top of the URL, and you should see that there's a certificate installed, and that certificate is providing encryption to and from a web server, from the client to the web server, back and forth, and all of that information is encrypted. So just to reiterate again, if you log into something online, like let's say to an online account, you should always look at the URL and make sure that there's a certificate installed. So that way your username and password are encrypted and no one is able to steal your username and password. All right. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to allow SSH and block SSH so you can actually see the connections happening. So I'm going to type in sudo. Actually, let me first see if the SSH service is running. I'm going to type in sudo systemctl status SSHD. And we see that it is actually running. The SSH daemon is running off of my server. I'll go ahead and do this. Sudo UFW allow 22. The rule's been added. I could check the rules by typing in sudo UFW status. And I see that now I'm allowing port 22 from any computer. That means that if I open up my browser, or not my browser, I'm sorry. Let's say, for example, I want to open up my PowerShell. This is on my Windows machine. If I type in SSH user01 at my IP address, 172.21.219.132, I should be able to connect. Now, this is funny because now it's asking me for a verification code, which on one of my previous videos that I recorded, I made a recording on installing two-factor authentication on an Ubuntu server. And now it's actually asking for my code from my Google Authenticator app that's running off of my phone. So I have to take out my phone, look at my code, plug it into the verification code right here in Windows PowerShell. Let me do that real quick. And now let me type in my password. And now I'm in remotely. All right. But what I could have also done was block SSH connections by typing in sudo UFW deny 22. The rule's been added. And if I go back here and exit and try to remote back in using that same command, it's not ever going to connect. And why is it never going to connect? It's because I opened up this firewall and I created a deny rule to port 22. Port 22 is associated with SSH, and it's used to remote into another system. And the only way, you see that? It says the connection timed out. Okay. This is what you usually see when you're trying to remote into other systems, and other systems have a firewall blocking you. Okay. Similarly, I can go in and allow that by typing in sudo UFW allow 22. The rule's been added, and I can go back, run that same command, and now it's asking me for my verification code and my password. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in. And my password. And now I'm remoted into Ubuntu. Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And I really appreciate you all watching this video with me. This is more of a video of how you can use firewalls to allow and block connections to different ports. And if you have any questions, please send me an email. And again, thank you all for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.